Oh, I can help you with that. Hey there, Eorzeans, it's Tali, your everyday Eorzean and part-time raid mom, and today we're going to dive deeper into lesson number 4, Always Be Casting, and talk about different ways you can maximize your DPS. Now, let's get started. Tip number 1, cast while moving. I know what you're thinking, but I promise you it's a thing, and it's usually referred to as slidecasting. You see, each spell you cast has a cast time, but truly, the spell usually completes before the cast timer and animation finish, and if you time it right, you can move early without breaking your cast, edging out that moment you need to get a spell off. Now, learning this skill takes practice, but I can help you get started. I'm going to teach you the same way I learned, and for that, we're going to need to find a striking dummy. As you cast, watch the cast bar and start to play around with moving before it completes. For me, it's around the 0.30 mark, so start there. For you, it may be a little bit different based off your reflexes and ping, so test it out. Spend some time one night beating the crap out of that dummy and learn when you can slide cast. Soon, it'll be muscle memory and you'll be doing it subconsciously. Now, sometimes you can't wait and you have to move. But each healer has some abilities that are insta-cast that you can do. For example, when I'm on White Mage and I have to move, I can burn one of my lilies. It keeps my GCD moving, it tops people off, and it builds towards my Blood Lily. On top of all that, it doesn't cost any extra MP. Either that, or if Dia's about to wear off, I can refresh that. Last but not least, don't forget that Swift Cast exists. It lets you turn any spell into an insta-cast, so if it's up, burn it to keep your DPS going. If I held off on all my abilities on the possibility I could need them later, I would have a one-hit button combo and no one wants that. You should keep your abilities on cooldown. In other words, use them as often as you can with some exception. That being said, you're gonna have to find a way to use them without interrupting your damage. Tip number 2, learn to weave. Now, hopefully you understand the difference between a GCD and an OGCD, but if not, here's the crash course. GCD stands for Global Cooldown. It's the time you have to wait between actions. Normally, your weapon skills and spells are tied to your GCD, so as a White Mage, I have a GCD of around 2.4. That means I have a downtime of 2.4 seconds between each cast. Abilities, on the other hand, have their own specific cooldowns, and they exist off the global cooldown, hence being referred to as OGCDs. They can be used at any time, however, their personal cooldowns are typically much longer, so keep an eye on those. Weaving refers to executing an OGCD ability between instacast GCD actions during the downtime. So let's say I need to cast Lucid Dreaming. Instead of casting Glare, Lucid Dreaming, I would weave it into a downtime spot. So as a White Mage, best places to weave these in are right after an instacast, such as Dia, Lily, or swift casting your Glare. Can you see the difference? This is going to be another skill that takes some practice and getting used to, but you can practice to your heart's content on the striking dummy. While we're on the topic of OGCDs, let's talk about OGCD healing. As a healer, it's your job to heal the party. It's your main directive, everything else is secondary. But what if I told you you could do that 70% of the time while DPSing and without casting a healing spell? I know it sounds crazy, bear with me, I'm gonna explain. Square Enix gifted us a toolkit that lets us do most of our healing through OGCD abilities. In fact, in the final boss of our current raid tier, I think I may have used Cure 2 a total of 5 times during my last kill, and if you ask my co-healer, that's 5 times too many. In fact, I don't even think he has Benefic on his bar. All of my other heals were through group heals for raid-wide damage or done using an instant OGCD. So I say all that to say that you generally can keep your tank alive without casting a single cure on them, just incidental healing and well-timed OGCDs, which means your GCD can be reserved for your damage spells. OGCD healing is another skill that's going to take practice, but it's doable. It just boils down to experience. But if you need a place to start, sometimes you can seek inspiration from others. One of the ways I optimize is by watching raid clears and seeing where the damage comes out and how that healer mitigated it. Maybe I try it, maybe I realize there's a better way, but watching it helped me get to that conclusion. Which brings us to our final tip, learn the fight. This tip is applicable to any instanced combat, but I'm going to hone in specifically on my baby raiders. This tip is going to be most important to you, and I'm going to tell you why. First off, this doesn't mean you have to watch raid guides and clears until you can recite the battle script in your sleep, but if you can, that's awesome and your raid leader will love you. Be sure to do that. What it means is to make a conscious effort to learn when things are happening and start to commit them to memory. If I know that 1 minute into the fight, I have to do a lot of movement, I'm saving my swift cast and instacasts, and my Eorzeans co-healer is saving light speed for that moment. If I know that a tank buster is coming up and it's going to force my Dark Knight to use Living Dead, I'm going to save my Benediction to heal him to full instantly instead of burning 3 GCDs and 3 Cure 2's worth of MP to get him topped off. Now, knowing when and how to use your abilities is half the battle. The other half is knowing where to stand. Watch the markers and figure out what is the least amount of movement you have to do to be safe. If the damage is centralized to the boss's hitbox, I don't need to go to the edge of the arena to avoid it. The time getting there is time I could have spent as a magical turret doing damage. Knowing the fight is going to inform you on which abilities to weave in and when for optimal uptime. It's going to let you know when you need to hold abilities for specific moments and damage windows, and when you can utilize tricks like slidecasting to avoid taking damage as opposed to using a full movement. All so you can optimize uptime and always be casting. I guarantee you, if you start using these tips in your gameplay, you're going to see an increase in your numbers and your overall healing performance. So if you learned something new today, already use these tips, or have another tip I didn't mention, comment down below and share the knowledge. Let's make better healers. If you like this video and want more tips, tricks, and Final Fantasy XIV content, like and subscribe. That's it for today, guys. I'm Tali, your everyday Eorzean and part-time raid mom, signing off. Take care, Eorzeans.
Okay, this circle is so juicy. I would love for you to be in it.
A triple blue.
Okay.
That's twice in a row, right?
Whoa! That's my
Tali,
fault.
why? Why, Tali?
So much for the triple blue.